What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Frostpunk guide video. Today we're going to be looking at the tech tree and we're going to break it down to two videos. So today's video is going to be all about the early game up to about day 20, where we look at tier 1, tier 2, and then tomorrow I'll be posting part 2 and we're going to be looking at the end game footage to sort of cover all the tech tree, which ones to go for, which ones to skip if you want to get the optimal gameplay. And also on the weekend I'm going to be posting a full gameplay footage of start to finish of how I get from start of New Home all the way to the end of the New Home, so stick along. I also want to shout out to @PMComposer on Twitter and @FrostpunkGame for them giving me permission to put the soundtrack that you can buy on Steam in the video. Big shout out to them. I'll put the links to their Twitter in the description down below. And as always, guys, if you like the video, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, write a comment, and follow for more videos coming soon. Alright, as always, guys, we are jumping into a new home and we're going to do a two-part series of this one, of the tech tree, because the Book of Laws video was quite a long video and I understand that 30 minutes is probably a long time for somebody to pay attention to when they want to get their information quick. So we're going to do a two-part series. We're going to do what you should do for tech tree early game and then what you should do for tech tree late game, because there's a fair few things that you need to do. So there are a few things that you want to consider before starting the game. Now, as always, we have to set up early game as best as we can, and I have made a video on that, so I'll pop that in the top right and in the description down below on 5 tips that get yourself started really well. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to look at setting up nice and early, set our laws, and then build ourselves a workshop. So I'm going to jump to that. I'm going to set up and I'm going to jump straight to the part that we can look at the first tech tree. Okay, so we're on day 2, nearly going to day 3, and we've built ourselves the workshop. We've started off with the basic resources that we need to set ourselves up for later on. And remember, guys, the workshop has a base level heating of 2, so you don't need to put it right next to the generator. As I've always said, you want to prioritise the first row and the second row for things like tents, medical posts, infirmaries, hot houses, cookhouses, that kind of thing, because when it gets colder, that is going to be very important. But anyway, let's look at the workshop. Hotkey T, or you can get it down in the section below. So this once again is going to be a video for hopefully people that have played the game for a long time and also played the game for their first time. So when you start, you'll be it's quite daunting when you first look at it for the first time in forever, or the first time at all, where you've got different subcategories of trees that you can go down. Then you've got different levels that can't be unlocked unless you unlock the different tiers. And it seems when you first start, when it especially did for me, that it was extremely scary. Well, which one do you go for first? Which one do you want to prioritize, and so on and so forth. So throughout my many gameplays, I think I've done about 20-30 different games on a new home. I've toyed around with a different thing. My new favourite one, where I didn't actually create any Steam hubs. I think Steam hubs are good at the beginning, but late game they're kind of pointless. So what we're going to do anyway for this video is we're going to create a very streamlined, nice and easy guide on what you can do for early game. Early game is probably up to, say, day 20, and then we'll look at day 20 onwards. So you're probably asking yourself, which one do you want to prioritise first? Now, as I always say, it's all dependent on your gameplay. Do you have people who are hungry? Do you have people who are sick? Do you have people who are cold? What day is it? You know, what's currently going on for you? Now, the most obvious choice is to go straight to the beacon, because the game asks you to build the beacon to go and explore the wastelands. But I would definitely say no. Stay away from the whole exploration and industry section until probably about day 10. Maybe day 8. Day 8 would probably be a good time. What you want to be doing, and it's in the first video that I made of how to set up early game, you want to be focusing on your resources and your food. Heating isn't going to be a problem, especially until it'll get colder, so it'll get to, I think, -40, and it might get a little cold then, so at that point you want to be probably researching heaters. I would probably stay away from Steam hubs, but if you're going to start the game for the first time ever, definitely look at that. The first thing we're going to be looking at is faster gathering. At such an early start of the game, you're only going to have gathering posts and probably searching through the snow yourself. So what you want to be doing for the gathering post, because at very early game you want to make sure that you get rid of all these resources before you start building sawmills and steelworks and coal mines. You want to stay away from that and get rid of all the resources there. Not only does it help early game, but it also clears up the map for future gameplay. And I know we're not going to be able to see that now, but I'm going to tell you what I'm going to build step by step, and then we're going to skip forward. So I'm going to look at faster gathering, then I'm going to be looking at hunter's gear. Hunter's gear makes your hunter's huts get more food. Now that's not going to be an issue right now, but later on down the line, until you can start building hot houses, you're going to want to prioritise hunter's hut over anything. So this is going to take probably half a day, and then you've got the hunter's gear, which is probably going to take the rest of the day, which is going to take us on to probably day 4, and then as soon as you hit day 4 it's going to get colder. You're going to research heaters. So before you start going to the next level and before you start going to the beacon or anything like that, you go faster gathering, hunter's gear, heaters, and then you want to start looking at sawmill and steelwork, because after day 5, day 6, this is when you're going to start to see these resources dwindled. So I'm going to once again fast forward really quickly with the power of editing until we've got to that point, and I'm going to fast forward until the point we get to drawing boards, unless anything drastically happens until that point. Okay, so we are just up to 11 o'clock of day 4. I had to stick the engineers on 24 hours to make sure I could get the heaters finished before it started to get colder, and as you can see it's -40 and we've managed to research heating. So what we're going to be doing next, so something that I always get stung by is the sawmill. So I'm going to personally build that first, because I always get to a point where I've run out of wood and I can't build any materials. I can't build any buildings such as the steelworks or the sawmill, because these two last bits of wood is the last that you're going to get in this entire map without building a sawmill for the trees all around. So I'm going to do that. However, what you can do if you want is you can focus on looking at coal thumpers, or if you want to get coal mining and use the steam cores, get yourself straight to drawing board. But what I found is to be exceptionally more effective for myself, and that's probably because I'm a little bit more, knowledgeable of the game, is getting these guys on tier 1 decked out first before I move on, because I'm actually not going to build coal mining. I'm not going to build any coal mines for this. I'm going to focus on using my steam cores for hot houses, because on my gameplays I always seem to end up with food issues. So that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. Okay, so we are now at day 5. And well, we're moving into day 6 now. It's about to get warmer, so what I want to do now is stress the next step of our tech tree. So what I'm going to do, instead of not jump into each time I build something, I'm going to show you my general idea of what I'm going to be doing, and then we're going to jump straight to what we've done and how we've done it, and what we've had to do in the meantime. So let me give you a bit of a breakdown. We're going to get through our last bit of wood in probably by the end of tomorrow. Which means I'm going to have to build a sawmill. So I'm in the process of I've actually researched it. We still have some steel left. So remember, this tech tree is the best for my gameplay, but if you want to play around with the information that you've got, that's completely down to you. Because what I try to prioritise is this gathering section for the wood steel, and then you've got the coal for this section, then move on to this section, and then finally you get this section here, which is steel and coal. So the sort of succession plan is, once you've run out of this bit of coal, you move on to this bit to get rid of the last bit of steel. By that point you've already depleted this section, so you've got yourself a sawmill there, and then once you've depleted that bit, you build yourself a steelworks, which is going to be over here, but we don't need that just yet. But by that point we've already got enough wood. So let me break it down in the tech tree how that's going to work. So we've built ourselves the sawmill. We've got unlimited wood until we've run out, so we're not going to worry about building this yet. We're going to get drawing boards number 2, and then we're going to look at sawmill upgrades. Wood is the second priority. Coal is first, then wood, then steel, until you get to the later buildings when you start building houses and things like that. So the plan is going to be this. Because I'm doing a section where we don't build coal mining, what I would say is, as soon as you unlock this for the new gamers or the people that are struggling with what to do, especially on hard mode, you want to be building coal mining next and using that steam core. Or if you always know you found out troubles with food, I would build the coal thumper and then look at hot houses. But this is what my idea of the game plan is going to be. And I always say in the first video is set yourself a plan on what you want to do, It's very methodical, so you want to make sure that you get yourself step by step and you know what you're going to do next, because you probably, after a few gameplays, you know when things are going to pop up and when issues are going to be created. So we're going to do this. Drawing board is going to get done. Sawmill, medical post upgrade, hot house, bunk house if we have an issue with heating. Bunk house would only generally be used if you have more followers. So if you, when you send your scouts out and you don't have issues with people coming along and they've got to build houses outside of the layer 1, look at bunk houses. If not, I would skip this until the next step. Go to heating, look at generator power upgrade 2, generator range upgrade, and then build a beacon. That's what I'm going to do. What you want to do probably is go coal mining, sawmill upgrade, medical post upgrade, leave the hot houses and put all of your guys in the hunters huts, and then build a beacon. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip forward until we get this whole section that I wanted locked out and built and researched, and then we're moving on to the second tier. So with the power of editing, we're going to skip forward. So I'm actually a little bit ahead of what I'd normally do. So because because I've got a spare day before it starts getting colder again, I'm going to skip the step where I look at generator power upgrade, and I'm going to go straight to beacon. If you're not as quick and you get to a point where you're probably halfway through day 9, midnight day 10, and you have to put 24 hours on your engineers just to make it warmer, I would probably go for the generator power upgrade. But because I'm ahead of time, I've built myself the medical post and the hot house. I'm going to look at resource depot a little bit later on, so I'm going to build myself a beacon now because I'm a day ahead. But for you, you'd probably want to look at making sure that you heat your community up. Okay, so we have skipped forward to day 13. As you can see, this is what my current settlement or community looks like, whatever you want to call it. So I've done things a little bit differently this time. So normally I would go straight from the Lost Expedition to the Sturdy Shelter, and then Winter Home, Weather Station, then the coal mine. But this time I thought I'd try going to the Lost Expedition to get workers, and then go to the observatory to get engineers. In order to, and because I've done that, I've managed to get myself a whole load more of engineers. I've still got 8 unemployed, so I'm going to build myself another workshop, and I've built myself another medical post. So like I keep saying, you've got to use the game to your advantage, and whichever way is best for you, do that. So if you need engineers, go to the observatory. If you don't need engineers and you're happy with what you're doing and you want to rush for coal, get yourself to there. Anyway, let's move on. So the next part, we've built ourselves the sawmill upgrade, we've got ourselves the extra heating, we've got the heaters of course, we've got ourselves the beacon, and we've got ourselves hunter's gear, medical post, bunk house and hot house. So we've got a few different options we can take in this one. I've got plenty of food, so I don't need to look at flying hunters or hunters tactics. The only way I would probably do hunters tactics is to get an extra 5 workers in each building. I could go down heating the house, heating everywhere, ready for the next cold surge, which is in a couple of days, but we've already proved we can live at -40, so we're not going to worry too much about that. We could look at getting more scouts or building a factory ready for the automatons. We could look at an insulation, and we are going to pick that, or steam sawmill or steam steelworks. But what we're going to do is, so the newest method I like to look at is getting yourself to the coal mine and building yourself an outpost. So I'm going to forward plan in probably a day and a half. I'm going to get that ready, and what I want the outpost ready to go. So I'm going to research the outpost depot, because I've got hardly any coal left, and that 800 coal per day is going to help me massively because I'm almost out of coal. It's all about what your gameplay works, but I'm going to give you the middle, before we finish off at day 20, I'm going to give you all the tech tree. So if you want to skip to the end to watch what tech tree I've picked and which order, go for it. If you want to stick with me step by step, go ahead, but I'm going to skip forward a little bit more for the video once we have the outpost depot sorted, and once we've got ourselves a steady supply of coal, then I'm going to show you the next step of the tech tree. Okay guys, so we are at day 20, nearly 21, and I've come to this point because we're a little bit further along in the gameplay, and I've researched some technologies that I want you guys to look at. So at this point in the game, it's going to start getting colder, especially for a couple of days, and you don't want your hope to fall any more than it does. Once again, I've been toying around with the idea of what to do, which has left me with a little bit less hope than I normally do, but I'm building, I've got churches and temples, and if you see my last video about Book of Laws, you'll see which route is the best way. to get the best laws to make sure your community is thriving. However, so what I've done is exactly this. I've left the heater area alone because we don't need that just yet. We're going to need that tomorrow. But up until that point, you want to make sure that you get generator efficiency more than anything, because that takes down the percentage of the amount of coal that you use per turn. We've got ourselves a constant flow of coal, 800 every single, I think it's 12 hours, which has left me having to build resource depots for coal because I'm nearly at capacity. So this is the route that I've gone. I've got myself the hunter tactics, and I've focused primarily on insulation, because insulation is going to help so you don't burn through that coal at a fast rate. It increases the base heating level by 1, which means it's going to get a little cold but not as cold when you get to -60. And I've looked at building myself finally the bunk houses, and if you can tell by this, nearly all of the outskirts is all bunk houses. We don't need to worry too much about these ones here, but we've got ourselves a couple more settlers coming in soon. We've got 22 workers and 7 children, so we're going to have to build more bunk houses, which I've saved myself a spot here. And additionally, what we're going to do now is we've looked at the steam steelworks. So the way you want to be looking at it is we've built ourselves a second tier. We want to fill out food, health and shelter. If you want to fill out resources, you don't need to worry too much about the charcoal kiln yet, because if you've got enough coal, you don't have to worry about burning wood until later in the game. Wall drill is an excellent way to get wood if you don't want to worry about a sawmill, and coal mining is an excellent way to get coal if you don't want to look at the depot. Then you want to be looking at this tier. You could do more scouts if you want to explore the whole wasteland, but once you play it enough time, I'll be doing a video soon of which way you want to go for your scouts. And if you want to fill the whole map, I'd definitely recommend getting maybe 2 or 3 scouts to go around and explore the map and get the faster scouting, so then get around quicker before the big frost comes. So we're at this point, we're midway through the game, maybe about 40%, and we've got ourselves up to the 3rd tier. So the next steps, one final part until we split it until the next video. We're going to start looking at the next 3. So as soon as you've upgraded that, that's where we'll stop it. Until that point, when it gets colder, we're going to look at improved heaters, and then that's all we need to do for heating. We're not going to build a factory just yet. We're going to focus all our steam cores on food. We're going to look at the steel coal thumper if we have an issue with coal, which right now we don't, so I'd leave that just for now. And then we're going to look at cookhouse insulation. Once we've done those, we're going to look at tier 3. So I'm going to stop the video now, guys. This has been part 1 of part 2 of the best tech tree. Next one's going to be out tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. We're going to finish off the tech tree, and this can be done on a few different things. So this tech tree can be applied to medium, hard, and the highest difficulty. You can look at it for other game modes, the endless game modes, the fall of winter home. There's pretty much the same tech tree you want to be looking at. And I believe the refugees section, it has a tech tree as well. There'll be videos out that I'll be bringing out later on down the line, but this can be used constantly. And when you first buy the game, the fall of winter home is probably going to be the first one you're going to keep playing and practicing. And once you've mastered that, you move over to the arcs and refugees, and then winter home, last autumn on the edge. The last 2 are a lot harder, and they've got different tech trees, so I will be making videos on that very shortly. But for now, guys, thank you ever so much for watching. If you like the video, hit that subscribe, hit that thumbs up, write a comment down below, and then I'll see you guys tomorrow with part 2 of the tech tree. So until then, take care. I'll see you tomorrow.